Allison Rosen. Allison Rosen is your new best friend. Allison, with her good times never end. Allison Rosen, doing the wavy pencil dance again. Allison Rosen, Allison's your new best friend.
Hey everyone. Hi. Hello. Welcome to another exciting episode of Allison Rosen is your new best friend. I'm sitting here in my studio with someone who has been very pivotal and influential in my writing career of late. It is Jack Newcombe, and he is the publisher of Tropical Attire Encouraged and Other Phrases That Scare Me. And he's the CEO of Creators Syndicate, which syndicates a bunch of columnists. My book originally was columns. And hello, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Allison. It's been over a decade since we've known each other.
Really? Wow.
Yeah.
And I know that you just had, okay, before we turn the mic on, you're like, this is really about you and your book. And now I am going to make it about you a tiny bit. You just had your third child.
I didn't have the child, but yes, my wife had our third child.
You're not one of those like weird pregnant people.
Right.
Okay. You were a party to
That's right.
a third baby being born. And what I was going to say is, I think as we get older, time gets confused, but especially when you have a baby, like time is confused. So I'm just surprised it's been over 10 years.
Right? I know.
Crazy.
I know. And we have 5 human beings that we created since then.
Yeah.
Neither of us had kids at the time.
No, I know.
You didn't even have Daniel at the time. You were a free agent.
That's right. Free agenting around town.
Right.
But I believe the first time you and I met in person was in Brentwood. Does that sound right? Was that the first time we met in person, or maybe
it was Houston's in Orange County.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Then the second time, I guess, was at some place in Brentwood where Daniel was living at the time. So by then I was not important.
Right.
Not important. Although actually Daniel is a huge part of the story too.
Of course.
But anyway, I was trying to remember when you first reached out to me.
I don't remember exactly like the year, but I just thought I heard you on
Corolla.
Your previous podcast, and you were creative and funny and interesting and truly unique. And I just thought that the voice was really interesting, and did a Google deep dive, saw that your roots were in writing. And I'm never shocked by that, because I think that it's much easier to talk and it's much more difficult to actually sit there and move the keys and put something out there in the written words. So the fact that you had that background, reading some of your stuff, I said, hey, we have a platform here. If you want to keep doing this, you can. And you said yes. And then the column was great for as long as you did it. And then the true definition of the word syndication is, in my opinion, is try to expand your audience on work that you've already done. So let's repackage this thing, put it in a book, make it a collection so that people can read it. And that's what we did. And the book is great. And the audiobook is even better, in my opinion, because people are used to listening to you as a podcaster. And every time you read an essay, you give a little exposition of like a follow-up of this is what happened after the fact. So I think the whole creative thing is really fun. And we just did a 5-year anniversary, kind of look back, because a lot of the earlier columns are about Oliver, the dog, and, before you had kids, and, now obviously a lot has happened, and the 5 new essays about everything that's happened, and the tribute to your dad was just so sweet, to sort of see the progression that you've gone through and that we've all gone through over the last 5 years was just really compelling.
Thank you. Yeah. I remember when we were working on putting the book together, so 5 years ago, the book came out in 2018, but like you said, when the column started, a lot of the material I think I got married during the writing of the column. So the wedding happened, like there's some stuff about in the original columns, but yeah, I remember at the time then working on the material in 2018 thinking, oh, my life is at this point in a different place from then. Yeah. And then, okay, so question for you. So for anyone who doesn't know the sort of story of the book, Daniel surprised me for my birthday, whatever year that was, with this hardbound, like he by hand. I didn't know that you could make a book, but he made a book of my columns, and he had illustrated each one, and he gave it to me as a surprise, like to show me, like, hey, you have a book's worth of material. If he hadn't done that, would you have thought to make it a book?
So what we did in this book is actually published the drawings. I don't know if I would have thought of it or not. Maybe at some point. I think the drawings definitely made it compelling. The fact that he's a part of it, the fact that he's your husband. I remember when the book initially came out 5 years ago, we did a book signing and he was there.
Yeah.
And he did drawings for all your fans, and these people lined up, around the block outside the last bookstore. So I think that was cool for the people that, read the book and that listened to you. It was sort of it wasn't this, but it felt like kind of a good little gimmick. That's not the right word because it has a negative connotation, but I thought it was really sweet, and it was a good kind of selling point of the book.
Yeah, I was thinking like, what's the nice way of saying gimmick?
Right, exactly.
Selling angle.
And he did more drawings for the new one,
including the most unflattering picture of me. Where
it's funny because I feel like I turned to that page.
Oh God,
a lot. Yeah. So you got to bring this up in
therapy.
Yeah, something like that. It's like a Rorschach.
It's because this is an essay called "I Feel Bad About My Face," and it was about trying Botox for the first time. Which, by the way,
you're a believer.
Now I am.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, the whole essay is about how I didn't like it, but at the end, I know I'll probably go back, which I did. And, it's just a matter of tweaking it till you get it how you like it, which actually is difficult. And I don't know. It's like something to do. It's something to do with my aging. But anyway, I talked about how my brow felt really heavy at the beginning. And I felt like I was like Sloth from the Goonies. So this picture is like me as Sloth, but it's so unattractive. It's so horrifying.
Your skin looks great, by the way.
Thank you.
So whatever you're doing is
Thank
working.
you very much. So tell me more about Creators and how you came to be the CEO.
Yeah. So my dad was the founder of the company. And in 1987, he worked for Rupert Murdoch, I
didn't know. Maybe I did know that.
So he was the guy who is the model of Logan Roy and Succession, and kind of that whole family is supposed to be the Murdoch family,
right?
At least, kind of some sort of creative liberty parallel to
yes.
it. So my dad worked for Murdoch and worked directly for him, and Murdoch was like a newspaper guy. And my dad he worked for the newspaper in college. And then when he got out, he was a beat reporter at UPI, which is sort of similar to AP.
Right.
And did that whole thing, but also liked the business side. So he got into the syndication world, which was like selling columns and comic strips to other newspapers. So he's working for Murdoch, and then Murdoch sells his syndicate. And whenever you buy or sell a company, usually they fire everybody and then just take the revenue, and it's called economies of scale, and sort of do the same thing with less people and then make more money. And then hopefully you pay off the loan or whatever it is. So my dad's job was going to be collateral damage. So then
Wait, you mean your dad was going to lose his job?
Yeah.
I thought you meant for a second. I thought you meant his job was handling the collateral damage.
No.
Oh, he's the guy who fired everyone.
No, he was gone. So then he looked around and he could get another job with another company, but then this could happen again. And
right.
He's always sort of had that entrepreneurial itch. So he went directly to the talent and basically recruited a handful of them, and including Ann Landers, who,
oh, wow.
I mean, I don't know, we're sort of aging ourselves if anybody knows who that is, but at the time she was like super duper influential. So I used to say she's as influential as Oprah. I don't know who the comp would be now. Like,
right.
Who's the Oprah of 2024
writing?
Or even like today? I mean, would it be Kim Kardashian?
Oh God. Or like there's a moment. Well, no, I was going to say Gwyneth, but no, because there's always like this pushback against, right. Who's everyone's mom?
I guess there's not
Paris Hilton. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, it's funny. I mean, that's like the changing media landscape. Like there's not a monoculture anymore.
Right.
Anyway, so he recruits her and she says, I'll go with you if you start your own thing. Same thing with this editorial cartoonist named Herb Block and then a cartoonist named Johnny Hart who had these two big comic strips. Now the big differentiating factor and what truly disrupted the industry is that he gave the comic strip artist, so Johnny Hart, ownership of his material.
Not full ownership.
Yeah, ownership of the characters, which was unheard of.
Got it.
And so he raised money. He actually raised money from a guy named Robert Maxwell. Maxwell, as in the daughter who was linked to Epstein.
Ghislaine?
Yes, that's her dad.
Oh,
okay.
Wow.
So he raises money from this dude.
Was that guy just an investor?
He was just an investor.
Okay.
Yeah. So he raises money, starts this company, sort of entrepreneurial success story, all that stuff. And then eventually that guy Maxwell is like, making my dad's life hell and wants him to sell the company and all this stuff. Fast forward, he ends up dying.
Maxwell does.
Yeah. His naked body is found.
Oh my gosh, this is getting exciting.
Off of like a boat. And nobody knows if he, got drunk and fell over or, whatever. Anyway, after that, it was sort of like smooth sailing. And then, when
pun.
Yeah. And then when Hillary Clinton wanted to write a column, she joined Creators and sort of they had their thing.
How did that happen? Did he go after her? Did she come to him?
My dad was always, so in typical syndication, it was like columns and comics. And my dad always loved the written word and was just really good at picking good writers. Mm-hmm. So I think we were always strong in that vein. So she looked around at kind of the landscape and was like, this is the place I want to go. Especially political, we represent people on both sides of the aisle. So I maybe she read somebody and sort of knew that, or just within, Washington or whatever. But that was good just for the company in terms of saying, we have a good reputation and this is a good kind of brand to be associated with in terms of we've made it. And then fast forward to, for me, I was a college athlete and really kind of majored in that in college. And when I graduated,
what was your sport?
Rowing, crew.
I didn't know. Maybe I did know that. I don't think I did though.
I don't know.
I think you play that close to the vest.
I don't know. It was definitely like super formative for me. And I was, a NCAA athlete for 4 years, voted captain my senior year, which, to this day is you get voted by your teammates and like getting voted by my teammates to be their captain, like means more to me than almost any achievement I've ever had, because like those guys trusting me is just such a validation. Like I care what they think more than anybody else. So that was like very formative for me in college. But then when I graduated, I didn't really have a career path. So I went into finance and I ended up getting a job at Morgan Stanley, which sounds a lot cooler than it is. It was really like,
doesn't sound that cool.
Well, it was a retail investment job and you're smiling and dialing, trying to bring in people's money. It was really on the Dean Witter side, which is not the big institutional side. Anyway, so I did that. And then
what did you major in?
Government.
Okay.
So I liked politics. I more liked, I don't like politics, like American politics, the way it is now. I really liked political theory. So I was super into like Aristotle and Socrates and sort of like what the best way to form an organization or a government is. I remember there was, I'm pretty sure there's this book by Aristotle called I think it's called the Nicomachean Ethics. I've totally lost your audience, by the way, but
you got mine.
Yeah. But they were talking about like the different types of governments. And the guy said, that the best government was where one person was in charge because there's no red tape. The problem is no human being is like virtuous enough to have that much power. That's why like the second best is a republic. Anyway, so when I graduated, I got a job in finance. I made 30 grand a year. And this was in 2004. Like, I know I sound like a dinosaur, but like,
right. This is not that different.
I feel like it's not that different. I guess it is 20 years ago, but anyway.
No, but when I was hired by Time Out New York in end of 2004, I was making 35 and in New York. And I remember that they gave me this binder of like all the stuff HR binder. And in the front page was a letter from the woman who had the job before me, who she was a friend of mine, and she was leaving and going to Entertainment Weekly. And I was like, hey, can you put me in touch with people who are hiring? So that's sort of how I got but anyway, it was a letter to her saying she was making like 30. So they had given me more than her. But anyway, yes, that was not very much money at that time. It was hard to live on.
Oh, so she left the letter in there and you saw that?
Oh my God, I assumed that was a mistake that her letter was in there.
Right.
But maybe she had left it.
I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah. So
get the job, and then fast forward a couple months. Like once I sort of had, once one company sort of said, okay, you're good enough to work, and you had this, then I ended up getting a job at Goldman Sachs, which was quote unquote a better place. And it was a better job working in investment management. I learned a ton about basically all the stuff that I didn't learn in college in terms of quantitative skills and financial modeling and that whole stuff.
What is quantitative skills?
Well, like, sort of how markets work.
Okay.
And, the difference. I mean, I didn't know a stock from a bond when I graduated, and then learning about interest rates and how that,
so like if someone had majored in econ, this would be the stuff they would, do they learn that in econ?
So econ economics is the study of incentives. So I found, it's funny, I ended up going to business school, and econ was one of my favorite classes. It's also one of the classes I did the worst in for whatever reason, but I love economics, and economics is really a study about people. Like, how do you motivate people to do certain things?
Oh, that's interesting. I wouldn't have known that.
Finance is about money, but economics is more interesting because people talk about supply and demand all the time. But what I think is more interesting is the relationship between price and demand, especially in media. Because if you think about this, if you put, your demand for your podcast is some number, and then the second you put a dollar amount, a price on that podcast, what happens to demand? What happens to any media right now? We don't pay for anything right now. That's what I think. I think it's so interesting what you're doing with your Substack, where if you sort of want to get you're sharing this. Have you talked about it before on your podcast?
Yes, I have. So I'm telling the story of finding out that I was Jewish after college. My dad had lied to me, and I thought he would never lie to me. So I believed him, even though it was becoming more and more far-fetched. It didn't really make sense, but I truly thought I wasn't Jewish. And then I found out. I have talked about that story a bit on the air, but I've never really gone into the details. But more importantly, I've never written about it. And I've always felt like someday I want to write about this, but I never have. I think it's not because my dad died in July that I'm doing it, but I don't know that I would have I don't know that I would have written about it if he were still here. So it is related in this sort of roundabout way. But anyway, I started writing about it on my Substack, and I'm doing it in these little installments. And then I have a paid version, which it was actually aforementioned Elise. Oh no, that was on air. That was off air that we were talking about Elise. Elise, author of On Our Best Behavior, who was just on the show recently. And then on the Thursday show, Joel Stein was talking about her too. Cause she convinced him to do Substack. She encourages everyone to turn on the paid version, because I think a lot of people are hesitant. Like, what am I going to provide at the paid level? So initially I turned it on with the idea of I'm not promising anything extra. But if someone wants to support me, they can. I don't know what I can commit to doing. But then it's turned very kind of, it just kind of came to be by itself. And it was simple that I do like an installment every week. And then I do a paid version every week where it's just additional context and kind of commentary about what I've been talking about, and then pictures. And that just felt natural. Like I didn't really feel comfortable sharing the pictures to the wider audience, but I feel comfortable with like the smaller audience doing the pictures. Yeah. So that's what I've been doing.
Yeah. So that's a good example of your kind of looking at something that most people give away for free and able to monetize it. So anyway, so that's kind of my interest in economics, or like the way markets work. But anyway, so I got a job at Goldman Sachs in investment management. I did that for 2 years, learned a ton, and then wanted to go to business school because I wanted to do something not in finance. I wanted to do something more creative. And I also, this was on the East Coast, and I'm from LA originally. I wanted to get back to California. You were in DC at this point? I was, yeah. And I applied to 3 schools in California and 1 on the East Coast, and the dust settled and ended up going to Stanford in Palo Alto, which was amazing, like amazing experience. Did that for 2 years. And when I graduated, looked at all these opportunities, all these different organizations, and ultimately chose to join the family business. And at the time, it being a family business was a turnoff because I didn't want people to think, oh, you're the boss's son.
Right.
But what I liked about it was in a creative field. It was challenging. So super duper challenging. In 2009, a company that was entrenched in the newspaper industry. And how do you save this company? And I got general management responsibilities immediately. So thinking back to, my college career, I got to lead a team. It's totally different, but sort of similar in that regard. So I joined in 2009, and I've been a part of the organization ever since, and sort of started general manager, worked my way up, chief operating officer, and CEO a couple of years ago. And I have couple businesses outside of that I've been able to start sort of at the same time. But it's been now since I've grown into the role and the business has changed and we've been able to evolve and adapt and all this stuff. The fact that it's a family business, I've sort of turned towards and like a lot more. And I sort of feel, did you watch Game of Thrones?
For a little while, I did not continue with it. I was already out by the time of the Red Wedding.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So the reason I ask is like, there's something cool about this is our family's corner. This is our flag. And like, if I can do something to help, keep it going, that's, and I enjoy doing it and can also do other stuff. And it's not like a life sentence. Like I actually enjoy this thing. And it is, by the way, I think part of it is it's challenging and the business has changed dramatically. And we have so many, industry headwinds that I have had to deal with. So I think I feel more ownership over the business. I feel more ownership of the organization and where we are today and all that stuff and self-esteem that comes with that and all that. So one of the things that I did was say, look, newspapers are going away, syndication's going away, all this stuff. So we need to get into more stuff. Let's go direct to the consumer. Because of technology, one of the things that we could do is actually publish books, but I adopted a 0 inventory strategy. So I didn't want to print a bunch of books and have them sit in a warehouse and then we lose a lot of money. So we were very strategic in our thinking. And one of the books, since we were doing, collections of columns, sometimes it was a good way to sort of get people like you, creative people, a new audience and a bigger platform. And a book is just different than even a Substack or a column or whatever. When you read them one after the other, and especially, at this point in your life, it's just different. I remember what my favorite writer is Chuck Klosterman. And I think you know his wife, right?
I do. Melissa Merritt. Yeah.
By the way, did you read her oral history on Dazed and Confused?
No. What was that in?
It was like 1,000-page oral history on Dazed and Confused, like the movie.
Wait, did she publish it?
Yeah, it's
a book.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It's fantastic.
I did not know that.
It's really good.
I need to read it.
Yeah. So he's my favorite writer, and his most famous book is Sex, Drugs, and Cocoa Puffs, one of the first books he wrote. But when he talks about it today, he's like, I wasn't a very good writer then. Like, I don't like that book compared to what I write today. Like, I'm a better writer now. I'm not saying you weren't a good writer when you wrote this book. But
where is this going? No, I'm just kidding.
But it's fun to look back on your early essays, particularly when you say that owning a puppy is harder than having a kid. And then you can reflect on it. You know?
Which one of the newer essays is I revisit that statement. Yeah, I think, I mean, I'd have to go back and look, but I think the later ones or the 5 new ones are more, there's probably more sincerity and more feeling in them and less just humor, but also I still tried to be funny. So
I think it's interesting because I reread the book before this, and I think there's seriousness in everything that you write, but I think you almost have a shtick or an act that I get, and I'm sure your fans get, but I think other people, they read it, they would just sort of read it and that would be it. I think one of your most interesting essays is when you get asked about females in comedy, females in podcasting. If you read that sort of at face value, somebody might walk away and think, oh, she's fine with it. But then, you know, the commentary in the audiobook, or if you reread it, or if you know you're seething. My words, not yours.
Yeah.
But it's like, there are so many daggers and things that I'm sure you've had to go through, but it's not over the top.
Right.
It's so nuanced. Did you see the Barbie movie?
Yes.
I'm about to have the Barbie hive go after me.
Okay. Oh, no, say what you're going to say.
I was super excited to see it, and I was very disappointed because of the total lack of nuance. Like, the end climax was literally them looking directly into the camera, giving monologues.
Right.
And I just thought, you can tell this story better, more creatively. And what you are doing, it is full of nuance. I almost think you're too smart for, you know, sort of the general public, but
thank you.
Yeah. Anyway, what do you think about the Barbie?
Okay, I saw it with Elliot, so I went with a 6-year-old, and I enjoyed it a lot. Daniel didn't see it, and now it's streaming, so he has watched it, and he saw like half of it one night, then we watched the rest of it the other night. I was kind of in and out. He has a lot of criticisms of the movie. Which I think he watched it with a much more critical eye than I did. Not the same thing as what you're saying. By the way, is there a Barbie hive that's going to come after us?
I just know a lot of people liked it.
I enjoyed it. I thought it was clever. I thought Kate McKinnon was great. The performance, it was, you know, really funny.
She was great. You're right.
Yeah. And you know, all of them were funny. This is beside the point, but the fact that America Ferrara is an adult is weird to me because she's just eternally, I just think of her as like Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, Ugly Betty. She's young, like not an adult in my mind. But Daniel was bumped by the fact that, like, to him, Barbie is not this model of go get 'em womanhood. It's like this problematic thing. Because, you know, there's always been this thing of like Barbie sets an unrealistic, you know, example for women. So the fact that it was he felt like he could see the hand of Mattel in it all over the place.
Of course.
And then also the fact that they're in Barbie land, there's like there's like there's all different sorts of bodies and it's very diverse, but that's not the case with Barbie. You know, he felt, but I said to him, and I think this shut him up about that. I was like, you know, I have to tell you, sitting in the audience, seeing a plus size Barbie who's treated like an object of desire, like that actually made me feel good.
Right.
So I feel like he was being like very concrete with it, but I don't know. I also think probably you and he went into it hearing how good it is.
Absolutely.
And so then it didn't, you know, it's very high standard.
I love Margot Robbie. I like Greta Gerwig. I was ready to go. Who's the guy in it?
Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Really?
Are we sure he's good?
I thought it was funny.
What's your favorite Ryan Gosling movie?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm not like a Ryan Gosling stan or something.
Right?
I just thought I thought he was funny in the movie. But you know what I really like, which I think it was Jeff on my podcast said that when it came on in the airplane, he wanted to jump out the window. I really liked La La Land.
Okay.
Did you hate it?
No, I have mixed feelings about it. I thought, do you remember, this is really aging myself. Do you remember when Anne Hathaway and James Franco hosted the Oscars?
Yes.
Do you remember the feedback?
It was very negative.
But it was mixed. It was, she brought it, she was energetic, and he was comatose.
Okay.
That's kind of how I felt about La La Land. I thought Emma Stone was a comet, was a star. I thought he was City of Nights, like very just sort of low.
Right.
And,
kind of low energy too.
Yeah. And I thought they, I know he worked with Damien Chazelle and they're, boys. And look, the movie did great. Like he was, I guess the right choice. And I don't know about the sort of other casting what ifs there, but I just thought she was great. I liked a lot of the music there.
Me too.
The middle's kind of slow. And also I'm a sucker. Like they don't end up spoiler alert. They don't end up together. Like the ending's kind of sad.
That was like my favorite part of it.
Oh God, you're one of those people. Okay.
Oh, no. Sorry. Let me rephrase. Not the fact that they didn't end up together, but the whole, I'm having trouble remembering it, but when now we're just spoiling, but that's fine. When he sees her in the club, doesn't she go on sort of a flight of fancy where she imagines that they did end up together? I
mean, I don't remember that, but I'm sure she did. Yeah.
I thought it was poetic. I thought it was beautiful.
Yeah. No, I'm sure you're right. I guess I kind of wanted them to be together and walk off into the sunset.
Yeah.
But that doesn't happen. And it was, sort of a good story about Hollywood to an extent. Did you see Babylon?
Mm-mm.
It got universally panned. It's like 3 hours long plus. I loved it.
Really? Maybe I'll check it out. Okay. I will say though, because when you said, God, you're one of those, in general, I remember thinking there was something very like beautiful and wistful about La La Land. However, one of the movies my most hated movies, My Best Friend's Wedding.
I never saw it.
Okay. It's awful. Everyone loves it. I hated it.
Yeah.
But they don't end up together.
Okay.
It's a similar thing. And I'm like, well, fuck that. Like, I don't want to.
Right.
So I'm not one of those is what I'm saying. I'm one of the other ones.
All right.
I'm over there with you staring at the other one saying you're those.
Gotcha.
Okay. I have a question for you.
Yes,
I have a
please.
few questions.
All right.
2009, you said you were thinking, how can we save this?
Uh-huh.
So if you remember in 2009, Save This being this company that's in newspapers.
Yeah.
So you are in 2009, you like already saw the handwriting on the wall.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I saw it before that.
Right.
I sort of, when I applied to business school, I knew that, maybe I'd join the family business. And then between first and second year, you had the global financial crisis. Mm-hmm. So, speaking of movies, this is what, The Big Short and all those movies that came out. Margin Call. It was about that time. I remember it was September of my second year, where everyone's sort of looking around like, the financial markets are just on fire right now, in a bad way, sort of smoldering. So that was going on as like an economic backdrop. And then specific to the industry, I was in Silicon Valley. Like the iPhone had just come out the year before. I knew that somebody throwing a piece of paper onto a driveway when you could get news for free in the palm of your hand, it just wasn't going to compete. Mm-hmm. Now, what do you do about that? I mean, traditional media still doesn't know the answer to that.
Right.
And they've tried a whole bunch of things. I looked at it from an economics, like a truly, economist standpoint, which is like, what do we do? What are our skills? So we're good at picking talent and working with writers and creative people. We can help edit and produce that. That's where we're different than just a traditional agent. We actually do, editorial work and publishing. But instead of selling that to a third party, which isn't going to exist anymore, or is
third party being like the newspaper,
like a newspaper, or is going to have tremendous changes or cost cutting or whatever, we have to go directly to the consumer. So you can do one of two ways. You can give it away for free and then monetize the consumer based on advertising, which is very difficult to do. It's something you obviously have done, and you should feel really good about yourself for doing that. And it speaks volumes to the amount of talent that you have and, hard work that you put into this podcast that you're able to do it. And then the other thing you could do is actually sell a product that people will pay for. And it just happened at the time that Amazon was getting really good at on-demand publishing, where it didn't look like, this vanity project that you got from Kinko's. It looked like an actual book, and you'll get it in 2 days. And then we didn't have to, all the research I was doing on publishing, like the problem was, unsold inventory. And so when I came into this, I was like, okay, we're going to do zero inventory. So we're going to do ebooks, audiobooks, and print on demand. And that's what we did. And we had a few sort of take off like at the beginning, but nothing really did well. And then after a few years, some of our political books in 2020, so people were home and it was an election year, that's when publishing really blew up for us. And since then, we've been able to sustain and grow and develop. And we sort of have this hybrid model of, we do collections, we do columns, writers that we work with, but people that work with us like the written word, they like stories, they like books. So we do get cold manuscripts, we publish fiction.
Wow.
We do.
So you're doing like stuff that you're like a full publishing company now.
Yes. Full on. So those are a lot more time and a lot more effort, and fiction's really, really hard to sell because there's no built-in audience unless you're, Stephen King or Daniel Steele. But it also like is important for the world and artistically to like put it out there, and the stories are really good. So, that's been, good for us. We also do some other stuff that like licensing. So we work with the comic strip character Andy Capp, and we work with a big company called Conagra Foods who make Slim Jims. They also make Andy Capp hot fries.
I didn't know about this. Where does one purchase Andy Capp hot fries?
So they're a competitor to Flaming Hot Cheetos.
Oh.
So if you want Flaming Hot Cheetos, but at a slightly discounted cost, you get Andy Capp hot fries. You can get them anywhere. Walmart's a big distributor. Sort of the middle of the country is kind of mostly where they're distributed. So.
Wow. And now they haven't branded into other foods like Andy Capp.
Not that one. I mean, well, we've done like onion rings and, barbecue and different flavors, just working with Conagra, but they're the salty snack experts. We do marginal, Andy would do that. Andy wouldn't do that. We actually got approached by Burton's Snowboards to make an Andy Capp snowboard at one point. And we really wanted to do it.
That sounds so cool.
We really wanted to do it, but this was back in like 2010, 2009, but they wanted him smoking. And I think the Andy Capp's folks sort of dragged their heels. And
what is Andy Capp's personality?
So, I mean, he's British and sort of likes the pints, doesn't particularly like being at home with his wife, sort of, kind of the everyman of the UK, so to speak.
So he would smoke probably,
but we don't really want to promote that, whether it's 2010 or now. But.
So these are British Flaming Hot Cheeto type things. Well,
the character is, but the Andy Capp hot fries are very American. I'm not even sure if they're sold in Europe, but they're focused here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So if I play my cards right, I could be on some kind of food product.
Absolutely. Yes. The Allison Rosen.
I can't believe it's not butter spray.
Do you actually use that?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, not as much as I used to, but I sprayed some on, Daniel made some fried rice last night, which he called Q fried rice for quants. Okay. And I sprayed, so I kept putting some butter on it, and it was good.
So are you anti-butter? If so, why?
For a long time, I was. because I like it too much.
Okay.
It's that kind of thing. But I can't believe it's not butter. Has its own buttery. It's more buttery. I like the flavor.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
it's more buttery. It's not like, if anyone, this is now dating me. If anyone recalls Molly McButter, which was this powder that you'd sprinkle on your food, and it had this like the most artificial, like gross flavor. But it was butter adjacent. But I can't believe it's not butter. Has its own like salty, creamy sort of flavor that it has a stronger flavor than actual butter, I would say. Okay. Now, do you have siblings?
I have one older sister. She's 2.5 years older than me.
Has she gone into the family business? Did she ever consider it?
She has not gotten into it full time, but she's, we grew up in the business. She's always been a part of it. She was an English major at NYU. She went to law school, so she sort of has like a writing background, but the company's headquartered in LA. She's got a family on the East Coast. So it was that part of it was, challenging, but she's, definitely a thought partner and definitely, a smart person about all this stuff.
Who's your best-selling book? Which is your best-selling book?
We have two. So the most interesting one to me is a book by a guy named Tom Margineau, who writes about Social Security. So
riveted. I'm riveted.
Okay. That's what you think.
Yeah.
And then you read the book and you're like, this guy takes something that's super important that nobody cares about, and he actually makes it interesting. And then you can and he's super knowledgeable and not condescending and compelling. And I this thing flies off the shelves, and I'm wrong all the time. And, people wanted to publish this book, and I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like Social Security, nobody's going to care. And then the book comes out and it's a blockbuster. It's our number one seller.
What's it called?
Social Security and You. And we do a new one every year because the laws change. And so he can update it. And then the other big one is, on the political side, a guy named Ben Shapiro.
Of course.
Okay. So we are not, I should say this because I know he's sort of a firebrand, as they say. We represent people on both sides of the aisle. We signed Ben when he was 17 years old.
Oh my God.
His mom had to sign the
contract.
contract.
And what is he now, 21?
So
his mom signed the contract.
Yeah.
Wow.
He was like, genius in terms of going to UCLA young, going to Harvard Law School, like super young. And he's been writing in columns since he was 18 years old or 17 years old. And so his book, Facts Don't Care About Your Feelings, is our sort of historical number one.
Right.
And that was one of the 2020 books.
Do you work with him directly? Like, what's he like?
He is very smart. He is a mile a minute. He's always thinking, always on. He is prolific in terms of what he writes, and always available. He's got a tough job in terms of like people, like, half the people love him, half the people don't like him. But he's also, a dad and married to a doctor and a family man and cares about his family a lot. And nobody sees that side of people. It's funny. We work with editorial cartoonists, and there are two that both have 2 Pulitzer Prizers. One leans right, one leans left. The guy who leans right is a guy named Michael Ramirez. The guy who leans left is a guy named Mike Lukovich. I am close personal friends with both of them, with their families. They are the nicest people in the world. And if you asked people about them, you'd say, you'd get, oh, I love this guy, or, I can't stand that guy. And that's where somebody like me, who's able to, represent and work with these people, you realize they're just people. And, usually the talented ones, the ones that are successful, keep their head down, don't say anything. They work really hard, like yourself, and you don't hear from them. And all they do is sort of work. And then eventually, they look up, and after a couple of years, they've built an audience.
Right.
So
when you say he's always on, how do you mean?
You know how you call somebody or like a family member and they're just like sort of chilling.
Mm-hmm.
I have not had that experience with
Ben Shapiro.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay, and then to go back to something you said at the beginning, back to Nicomonian. What is it?
Nicomachean. I'm pretty sure I used to say something else, and then I had a professor say Nicomachean, and then I rolled with that.
What did you say before?
I think night. I don't even know.
Okay. But anyway, you said that a republic is the best form of government.
Right.
I know the answer, of course.
Yeah.
But if someone else doesn't, how would you define a republic like versus democracy?
So I'm not going to pretend to be like a political theory expert, despite being a government major at UConn and liking political theory. My understanding is it's really about checks and balances. So no one person or group can have too much power to completely, sort of take over. And I know that you see what's going on so my mom's dad is from Ecuador. And if you see what's going on in that country right now, like it's really sad, in terms of, gangs really, taking over and people are scared. And we have a lot of problems in this country, but the fact that we have a stable democracy where there are checks and balances, like that's what is aspirational about the US, at least how we were founded and how we've been so far.
It does seem, some of it seems to be hanging in the balance.
Yeah.
I don't know.
In what regard?
Well, I just now we are getting political. I keep hearing people say, what you don't understand is if Trump gets if Trump goes into office, like that could spell the end of our democracy. And I haven't taken the time to really explore what they mean by that. But I think my understanding would be that like he could push through legislation or do things with voting or where we could be in a bad way.
So I'll give a short answer and then we'll get back to the comedy. I don't disagree with that.
You don't? Okay.
I think in the sense of like the impact that any executive in that office can have. And I think Roe v. Wade is sort of the perfect example of that, like having a huge impact. So if he were to get elected, that's, more change like that could come. Absolutely. So I don't want to downplay that. I guess my belief in the American system would be in 4 years, you could vote him out.
Yes. The sense I get though, and tell me if I'm wrong, you're probably much more in touch with, especially like with all the columnists and stuff, you're probably much more in touch with this than I am. But like my sense is that people are saying, no, we might never have an honest election again if he goes back in. Yeah.
I mean, so I will say, I have 3 kids and I run 3 businesses and I'm very focused on whatever's in front of me. So stuff that's outside in terms of following politics or following stuff, it's very difficult for me to do. So I actually I'm not like up to date. A lot of times I'll ask, our editorial force, I'll be like, hey, who's up in the primaries or who's going to win the nomination? By the way, they say Trump by a landslide. Like there's nobody close.
I know. Do they think he's going to win the presidency though?
To be determined.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know about that. But the, on the changing the, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of that stuff, I'll tell you, the scariest thing to me, we're going to have a tough time coming back from this, Allison. I'm going to be honest with you. The scariest thing for me, do you remember Charlottesville when that guy drove his car into that group of people?
Yes.
I mean, obviously like January 6th was January 6th, but like that just lack of acknowledgement for like human beings was kind of saddening to me.
Yeah.
In addition to everything else that, we don't have to sort of go on and on about what happened. My hope, I also believe in the human spirit. I believe in human beings. I believe that people are inherently good, that we can come back from this. So
Now,
no
I
matter
don't
what.
remember the circumstance. When you say Charlottesville, I think of a bunch of like Nazis having a march.
Yeah.
Was that the same?
It's the same thing. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing.
And someone drove into whom?
Well, I think there were people that were anti that.
Oh, and they drove. Oh, and they drove their car into into the people who were marching.
No. The other way. So there was, I think, I could be wrong, but I think that there were people that were sort of protesting the protest.
Oh,
and then somebody drove. I want to say a black Camaro. I have it like brought tears to my eyes when I saw it. Anyway, just drove into a group of people. So,
and how many casualties were there?
I don't know.
I sort of remember like a college girl. I don't know. Yeah, that's awful.
Yeah,
it's awful. And it does seem to. I worry that things are getting more and more polarized right now. It does feel like they are.
I'm an optimistic person, so I feel like things are better than they. I feel like things were really bad in 2020.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that whole time, obviously, for a lot of reasons, and it seems like things are better now. We're planning on, in terms of books, like we're going to publish a lot of political books this year because it's a election year. I don't get the sense that people are super into politics right now. Mm-hmm. From a business standpoint, I hope they are, because that's what we're betting on. But I feel like there's a lot of fatigue, and people like comedy and want to do other things right now. I think COVID was really hard on us, and really, sort of the people are looking around for leaders and trying to figure out who to trust. And I think that's why people who have podcasts have such loyal followings.
Well, I'll tell you something weird. I'm trying to think I think I've talked about it maybe like once on this show. So, I'm not hugely political generally. And I've certainly never really talked about, I've never really talked about being Jewish other than discovering that I am, and it hasn't really meant anything to me. However, October 7th was like a huge, huge thing for me. And I've really felt quote unquote Jewish in a way. I don't know why I put it in quotes, but it felt right. In a way that I never did before. It never meant anything to me before, but all of a sudden it kind of does, even though I religiously, spiritually doesn't mean anything in that sense. But I, have pretty strong feelings about what's happening in the Middle East and the rising anti-Semitism. And are you on Threads? Do you know what Threads is?
I am on it, and I
have you seen what I'm doing over there?
No, because I clicked yes, do Threads, and then I haven't gone on it since.
Okay.
I also deleted Instagram, so.
Oh yeah, we need to talk about that you repeatedly delete your social media, which I find inspiring. Okay, so Threads is smaller than the other ones. And at the beginning, everyone was like, oh, this place is so, it's so nice to be away from all the Nazis on Twitter X. However, the algorithm on Threads, because it is Facebook, is so good that if you indicate, I don't like this, this makes me have a reaction, then it's just I will only show you this.
Oh my goodness.
So it's just nonstop anti-Semitism on my feed. And so anyway, this is all a roundabout way of saying, I am very politically outspoken about what's going on in the Middle East on Threads, not anywhere else. I don't talk about it on my show. I mean, I think occasionally it's come up, but I don't spend time anywhere else. It's just on Threads, because in my mind, it's this is this little area that no one's looking at.
Right.
But my social media numbers everywhere else, they move a tiny bit, but every time I open up Threads, I have more and more followers.
Yeah.
Now, again, it's still less than my followers on Instagram, but that's, here I am going out on a limb and having a strong point of view, and people like it.
Right. I think that's a misconception that content creators have.
That you can't be political.
Well, I don't think I think it's authenticity. Mm-hmm. I think trumps everything. I think the consumer is way smarter than people think, and they can see through everything.
Right.
And everybody has opinions on stuff. And it's like the somebody told me this, the most attractive thing about a dude, I guess, yeah, it's about a dude is like confidence, right? Or like passion. Even if it's about, Dungeons and Dragons or something that's like seemingly, sort of geeky or whatever. So like if you're into something, people are like, well, she cares, she cares about this thing. So people are gravitating towards that. So I think that's a good thing. I think the idea of, I don't know why, but like sort of like the Ryan Seacrest comes to mind of like all things to all people is just not reality.
Right.
It's okay to have a bad day. It's okay to, I joke with, sort of people that I've known, my entire life. Like I can be a world-class shit talker, and it's like, I am drawn to people that like, if you want to corner, in a party and like start talking shit about people that like I grew up with, like, let's go,
people who have a, like, I will not gossip policy.
Right?
No, I mean, it's noble, but it's like, what are we going to talk about then?
So I was thinking about this. I'm reading this book about In-N-Out Burger. Okay. And it's called The Ins and Outs of In-N-Out, and it's written by the family.
Wow.
So it's like, one-sided, and In-N-Out, Burger, like their Christian faith is like a huge part of their culture. And so they read like different Bible verses, before the different chapters. I was raised Catholic. I'm currently a free agent. And so, one of the Bible verses was like, God loved everybody, so he gave his only son. And I'm a dad and I have 3 sons. And I started thinking about that line and I'm like, I would die for any of my kids. I would not give any one of them for the population of the world or whatever. I don't really have like a takeaway from that other than I would never do that.
Right. Other than like, right. This is a sentence or a notion that people just grow up hearing.
Yes.
And all of a sudden you get to a point and you're like, what? That has never that's never made sense to me. Like on its face, I don't understand that. What did sacrificing his only son, how did that help people?
Yeah.
Like I truly don't get it.
Right.
The idea being that somehow it absolved people because he like soaked up their sin, like bread and gravy or something.
Yes. No, I it's been a while. I think it's original sin. I think it's Adam and Eve. You take a bite of the apple when you're not supposed to.
But it's not like since then everything's been hunky dory with everyone. People are still, born with original sin. If you believe in that, right? Yeah. No. Absolutely. So maybe he needs to give another one. Like that one didn't take.
Right. Exactly. I heard this. So did you ever see the movie The Devil's Advocate with Al Pacino? So, anyway, forget about the movie, but there are certain things you need to do, like in terms of like God and I'm talking, it can be any religion, whether it's Christianity or something else. It's like, okay, do these things. And then you go to this place, which is better. And then on the other side, it's like, we're going to accept you no matter what. Well, aren't we trying to accept people no matter what these days? Like, isn't that sort of the thing? And I'm not like pro, the other side, whatever. You can use your imagination for what that is. But I just think that, sort of where we're at, whether it's political or anything, this is like such a small moment of time.
Yes.
And we are so lucky to be born, period. I mean, you and I have both been through sort of fertility issues and things like that. And the likelihood of any of us being born is insanely low. And the fact that we make it and that our moms made it to have a live birth is insane. And that we're alive at the same time is incredible. Like, we share this common experience that is just so astronomically out of the realm of possibility. We should celebrate each other and try to get along because we are way more similar than we think. Not to be kumbaya,
but it's true.
I truly believe that. Anyway, that's why when people say this is, sort of the sky is falling, or why would you want to have kids at this time? It's sort of like, I just believe in people, and I think we're sort of we're doing a good job as a whole.
Oh, see, I believe in people. I'm trying to think well, you know what? I think that I also am an optimist in that I have this faith that at the 11th hour, we will figure out the climate situation and we will figure out the environment. I hope. I mean, because otherwise what happens? Like the planet explodes or something? It seems like a pretty bad way. It seems like there's all sorts of bad things that we're headed towards. And I just feel like when it is necessary, someone will get their shit together. So I hope that's right.
There's an old saying in media, which is the answer to all of your questions is money. So right, as soon as you talk about economics, as soon as the incentives align for us to stop doing all the things that we do, using plastic and fossil fuels and all that stuff, as soon as somebody can make a buck off it, then we'll get there. And I think we're sort of going that direction. So no, I totally agree with you. And I have the climate thing scares me, and I don't know what to do about it other than sort of the personal. You do your best, but that is a real issue. That
Daniel is very freaked out by all of that, and he also tends to just be. He's not the sky is falling, but
do you guys play those roles? Like, are you more optimistic and he's not?
Yes.
Okay. I'm the same way with my wife. I'm more optimistic.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's also like he's more up on all the worst things happening. In fact, when I was in the hospital in labor with Owen, he and my mom were there and they were talking about like some calamitous environmental something or other that had just happened. And I was like, can you guys not? Like, this is absolutely the worst time for this conversation. So when Daniel is like, did you hear blah, 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 and this is bad because it freaks me out and I don't have there's nothing I can do about it. So I don't like to hear all of it from him often because it just feels like someone saying to me, hey, be worried. Hey, here's a list of things to be worried about in case you weren't already worried.
Right.
Yeah, I forget where I was going with that.
Did you watch White Lotus?
Oh yeah, I love White Lotus.
Did you watch the second season?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how there was that one couple who said, oh, I don't watch the news or whatever?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to hesitate to say what I'm about to say because I don't want to be mistaken for that couple. But I am, again, I have 3 kids. I run multiple businesses. I am very protective over my headspace.
That's so smart.
And so I try very hard not to consume things that an algorithm tells me to choose or that's, not real news. I've also worked in media long enough to know what the little words are that are real and what are not real. So like, if Russia invades Ukraine, that's real. If gangs are taking over Ecuadorian news organizations, like that's real. If it says such and such might, maybe, different qualifiers and depending on the source, and even that is sort of everybody's, kind of going for eyeballs and clickbaits no matter what. Then it's sort of like, all right, that's, maybe I don't need to read the whole thing there. So, I get mad at my wife for this. I'm like, why are you reading that?
Yeah.
But they do a really good job of like addicting us to this. And it's not just the algorithm. I think media today and the way that, do your kids watch, Spidey and the Amazing Friends? Spidey and the Amazing Super Friends?
No.
What do they watch? What's their thing?
Oh gosh. Well, they play Minecraft a lot. They're like obsessed with playing Minecraft. But when they watch stuff, what is Elliot into? It's like they like Sarah and Duck is probably the most defendable one because it's like calm.
Yeah.
It's a whole bunch of different stuff on YouTube.
Okay.
So Pocoyo, something called Pock Pock. I forget what. Oh, they're in and out on Blippi.
Okay. But all the stuff today, and even like on YouTube, the videos roll into the next video.
Oh yeah.
And it's just constant. And I have almost a 6-year-old and almost a 3-year-old. And I'm not going to I'm not going to lie. I basically like exposed them to stuff that I was into as a kid. So, expose them to the Ninja Turtles, Transformers. We tried Star Wars. The oldest one was like, I'm out. And so we don't do Star Wars. So on Transformers, there is a cartoon from 1984. So if I put on Spidey and the Amazing Friends on Disney Plus, they become comatose. Mm-hmm. They are just locked in episode after episode. If you try to turn it off, they freak out. If I put on this 40-year-old Transformers that's kind of grainy, you can watch an episode and then you can turn it off. Right. And there's sort of a beginning, a middle, and an end. And it's not the same addictive nature.
Right.
And so I see that in all of kind of media and society. I don't know what got us there, but anyway.
And you would rather they watch something where it's not like and they're not addicted to it, right?
Like totally immersive, where they can't. My oldest one loved dinosaurs, and there was a show on Amazon Prime called Dino Dana. Mm-hmm. It was 12-minute episodes, Canadian production company. It was really good. The actress who played Dino Dana was like really good. It was this kind of blended Indian family. It was very like progressive, but like a really good show. And they taught you about dinosaurs. If he watched that, I mean, it was game over. Mm-hmm. Like if you turned it off, it was just, he would have a meltdown. Mm-hmm. Whereas like other things, like again, I'll show Ninja Turtles from 30 years ago. And it's just like a little bit more, or we started watching A Pup Named Scooby-Doo. I don't know if you remember that cartoon series. Mm-hmm. It's just a little different than like the newer stuff.
Right.
And it's a little slower pace. It's a little goofier. So they have a better time sort of walking away from that. It also doesn't look as good in a lot of ways.
I think maybe what got you onto that is you were saying that it's not new.
Right.
This algorithm is not new.
Right. In terms of like showing people what they want to see. Well, I think for kids, like it can be immersive and they sit there and they become comatose. And then for us, they're tracking your eyeballs. So your eyeballs are going to go towards the anti-Semitic stuff. My wife's eyeballs are going to go towards the mother drowned her 5-year-old on purpose, or, kid died of RSV or whatever.
I think sometimes the reason I have a negative reaction to Daniel listing all the things to worry about is because I feel like, and it's that authenticity thing that we were talking about, I feel like he's not saying what he really means to say. Like, I think this is a feeling he's having about a lot of things, and it is becoming attached to news stories, and there's an energy behind it. But really, if he was to, like, it's not really about the environment. It's about, he feels that the people who, now I'm guessing.
Yeah.
But he feels the people who are supposed to be taking care of us aren't doing it. And it's it's like, it's a feeling that he's not contending with, and it's coming out in a sideways way. That's my suspicion.
Is he in individual therapy? This is getting personal.
No.
So
he has been on and off. And I think he would say right now that he should be.
Yeah. So that would be something that you could sort of examine and, sort of figure out, like, why do I care so much about this thing? But I think that is unsettling. I also think that I don't think we are emotionally and psychologically capable to process all this stuff.
Yes.
I know we're not, I think.
Well, I think that's why social media is like too much for our brains.
Absolutely. I think we were, I want to say, like, we're conditioned to be around like 150 people. Like, that is the size of the tribe that we had for hundreds of thousands of years or whatever, and tens of thousands of years. And then, some people we were stronger than and better than and older than and younger than, and then some people we weren't, but that was it. We didn't have, comparison is the thief of joy. We couldn't see sort of the entire world. Mm-hmm. So and this goes back to kind of the mental health struggle for young girls right now. They look at their phones and, body image issues and all that stuff, because they're comparing themselves to everybody else. And by the way, it's not their fault. They're being shown sort of their kind of, deepest, darkest fears. And that's what the algorithm is showing.
Right.
Them, so.
Right. I'm looking at the time.
Yeah.
I know that you have a cool class to take your son to. So let's just, real fast. Do you have a Podcast Pals product pick? Podcast Pals product picks.
I do. I have two, and I'm not sure if.
Let's do both. Yeah,
let's do them. Do you know what Sonos is?
I've heard that name, but I don't.
All right, it's a speaker.
Mm-hmm.
So specifically the Sonos Roam, and the reason I like it is because it can. I will put the kids in the stroller, and it'll get them out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, at the end of the year, we got our Apple Music, your top 10 plays or whatever. My top, music, I'm sure it's the same for you. It's like the theme song to this movie, Pacific Rim, which my kids are obsessed with, and the Beastie Boys, which my kids are also obsessed with, and Olivia Rodrigo, which they're also obsessed with. Oh my God,
they have good taste.
They do. But we if I can use this thing, it was like $139 and it's indestructible. And it gets them out of the house. So like, I'll, get the stroller loaded. I'll start playing the Pacific Rim song, and then they'll like run towards me as opposed to, chasing around the house, trying to get them out. The other thing is over the summer, I was like breaking out, and I was like, what is going on? I'm a 41-year-old dude. Like I shouldn't have, face issues, but here we are. And I remember in college, I had a buddy whose dad was a doctor, and he had some skin issues. And I had skin issues. And then he said, try this soap. It's called, I want to say it's called Retin A for some reason that rings true. So I tried to find it, and I found something sort of comparable off of Amazon. I ordered it, and it like burned my face. And I was like, what am I doing? So I went to my dermatologist, and I've actually had sort of a few, like relatively serious skin cancer stuff removed. So I go pretty regularly.
Is that from the rowing?
I think it's actually playing tennis growing up.
Okay.
Growing up here. And then, so I was talking to her, and I was like, hey, do you have stuff that'll clear up? She said, yes. Like this is an easy thing. So she's like, use this face wash, use this oil, use this moisturizer at night, use this one during the day. You're done. By the way, $350.
This medical grade skincare is so expensive
for everything. But here's the thing. I start using it. It's amazing. Like I love the way it feels. It's my ritual at night.
Oh, you have self-care rituals. What is it?
Well, no, I mean, it's this wash that she gets. So it's called Glow MD.
Glow MD.
I don't know if it's her sort of product. But it's expensive and it works. Now, my wife, who's also named Allison, used the moisturizer and she like had like this horrible reaction to it and had to like scrub it off. So I don't know if I'm just like the perfect patient for it, but those are the two things that have been sort of life altering for me in the last year.
It's hard to go to the dark place with this, but what was the thing you got on Amazon that burned your face? Was it like a special acne wash?
I think so. It was like a bar, like a soap bar.
For acne though?
I think so.
Because you said Retin A. Retin A is a prescription ointment. So probably not that.
Oh, then maybe I want to say like CoQ10, but I could be just making stuff up at this point. It was something.
Yeah. Okay, great. Do you have a just me or everyone?
Sometimes I ponder on something I have thought or done. Is it just me or everyone?
Oh, do you really hold your breath when people are underwater in movies?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
People do that one. Yeah.
Somebody else does that?
Yeah.
Sure. So I didn't think this was a big deal. And then I ran it by a coworker and they were like, no, you're a psychopath. So I go sock, shoe, tie, sock, shoe, tie. So
yeah, that. You're not the only one, but it is upsetting to the rest of us.
And I always start with my left for no reason. Now, the sock, shoe, tie thing for me, I don't want my socks to touch the floor. I don't want them to get dirty. So as soon as I put the sock on, I want to put the shoe on.
Right.
Now I realize at a certain point I have a sock and a shoe and then a bare foot, but then I put a sock on. So, and a shoe.
So you never walk around in socks in your house? It's always barefoot?
So we're a shoeless house.
Okay.
And yeah, correct. I'm always barefoot.
You're never in socks.
No, because I don't want to get the sock dirty.
But it sounds like your floor is not even dirty because you're a shoeless house.
Yeah, I got kids and a dog and
okay.
I don't know.
Sometimes I wish we had gone shoeless because...
You still can.
You're right. We're not committed. But when we moved in, there's carpet in the bedrooms and it is so like discolored and matte.
Carpet's cheap. Get a new one.
I know. Yeah. And it was like the cheapest. Really?
Yeah. My dog shit all over the guest room carpet. We got a new one. It's life-changing. And it's not cost prohibitive.
Maybe we should.
Yeah.
Now, did they move all the furniture out though?
Yes.
Really?
They do
Okay.
it. They did it in like 2 hours.
Really?
It's incredible. Yeah. Bed, like dresser, all the stuff.
Yeah. Because it seems like that'd be impossible to get everything out, but they can do it. All right. Maybe we'll do it. Yeah. Most people are sock, shoe.
Really?
Yeah. Isn't your wife a sock, shoe?
You know, again, 3 kids. She's like a Van slip-on after walking out the door with the baby. And,
right.
You know, maybe an Ugg boot and let's go.
Yeah. Just today when I was putting on my mascara, I was like, I always do the right eye first. Could I possibly do the left eye? And I decided no. I just can't. It feels too weird. Jack Newcombe, it was so nice having you on the show.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. I know that people are going to be like, this was so interesting. People are going to go out and buy that. They're not going to buy my book. They're going to buy Social Security and You. I hope they'll also buy Tropical Attire Encouraged and other phrases that scare me. It has an updated cover. So really you could buy the old one and the new one. And
get the audiobook if you're listening to the podcast, because it's like the podcast and Allison comments on the essay. So.
Anything else you want to say to them?
I, as a fan of yours, I appreciate that they are, you know, your loyal following has followed you and continued to support you and encourage them to do so.
Thank you. I mean, I would say like give out your socials, but you're not on social right now. You're off.
This is purely for you and, you know, just to talk about your writing. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh, and by the way, if you do, and I've said this before, but I'll say it again, if you buy the 5th anniversary edition of the book, please leave a review on Amazon, because all the reviews are on the old one, but now they're like coming in on the new one, but we need to get that number up because I look right now and I'm like, we can do better, guys.
Let's do better.
Yeah. So please. And we're going to do a book signing. I know we got to figure that out. You when you had a kid. So, which is really no excuse for me not choosing where to do it. We're going to do a book signing. So if you're in town, come to that. And follow me everywhere, blah, blah, blah. I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/AllisonRosen. You can get to everything by going to Allison'sLinks.com. Thank you again, Jack. Listeners, thank you for listening. I love you. You matter. Goodbye.
Hey, do you know about the Allison Rosen Show?